Things that we need to do is we need to get a compensation package decided. We have to agree between the House and the Senate what state employees and higher ed will get as part of that. We have to agree on a fees bill. We have to agree on legislative intent, and then the internal services funds. Our staff also told us we should, assuming we're going to, I expect that we will fund the growth in public education, we need to get that done, because if we don't and the students appear, then that'll put the value of the weighted pupil unit down. So we need to do that. And if we do compensation for state employees, we should also do compensation for the WPU for public ed. So those are things that I would hope to get done. We fully plan on having an executive appropriations committee tomorrow night and approve at least those items. And if we get those items done, because those are really the big ticket items for our staff. I didn't realize it, but when they do a compensation, they almost have to do it person by person. It's really a pretty complicated thing to do it. And so we can't, obviously, they tell us if we wait till Monday to do it, they can't get it done by Thursday and feel any confidence they've got it done right.
How big a risk is it that that a budget won't be passed other than the base?
Well, I don't like the word risk, because I think if we don't come together, then I think what will happen, the governor will probably have to call us back in a special session. And I would hope to give us some time to look. I personally, and I said before, I think the Senate appreciates the technology initiative. It's an important step that I think public ed needs to make. The question again is how much. So many different school districts and different places that are in this technology thing that just simply give them money. It may be really beneficial for one district. Another district may have already made these steps and they don't need the money in that particular area. So obviously when we take the steps, some things are very important, that we equip all the buildings so they handle the Wi-Fi, the access. It's also very important we train all the teachers, that they know how to do and handle the systems. Those types of things can be handled basically with one-time money and would take some time to do. The question is then, after this time, how do you keep it up? I've learned one thing here: computers are not one-time expenditures. Once you make this step and move into the computer and really make that part of your education program, they have to be updated and renewed every other year. And so it's a long-term commitment we're making to expand and go there, and probably one that we really should do. The question is just how we do it in such a way that we don't end up wasting money doing it. That'd be my concern.
Are you saying that would be the hitch if a budget didn't pass, that it would be about this disagreement over this initiative?
I think that's the main issue between us. I don't hear Medicaid as much of an issue, although we don't have the same pressure with Medicaid. If we don't decide anything, there's no time limit. We could work this thing through and the governor could call us into a special session once we had an agreement on it and do it really quite simply. But I think the focus we really have had. And again, I hate to undo all the great work our committees have done in prioritizing bills. I know as we've gone over the prioritization list and tried to allocate money, I can tell they've really done a really good job in looking at soft spots and where we ought to fund the money. But again, if we don't have a budget, that money won't be spent.
You know, the important thing here is not to hurry, but to be right. Get it right while we're working on it. If it takes some deliberation, if it takes some time, we have great respect and confidence in our friends across the aisle, across the hall from us there in the House. We have great respect for their leadership, and we can get this right if it takes some time to be able to do that, even if we end up coming back in a special session to do it. That's the important thing, is to make sure that we get it right when we're finally done, and I think we can do that. If it takes some time, that may happen.
Let me just clarify. Are you talking about Medicaid, or are you talking about the budget in whole?
I'm talking about the budget in whole and the all of the budget negotiations.
In your 30 years up here, have you ever had to do that? Have you ever not come to a budget deal?
I can't ever remember where we didn't have a budget at the end. I remember some Saturday meetings that we had to finish up that have taken that time to kind of calm down and come back together and try to put it together.
I do remember one time when a bond bill was part of the budget and the bond bill did not pass, and we had to come back in the special session to handle the bond bill.
And that turned out to be a real mistake. I voted against the bond bill, and it failed on a very close vote. And by the time we came back in to rectify that, we actually had found new money. And so, as I recall, it triggered a teacher strike because we didn't give the money out to teachers. We actually bonded for more than we did before, and I just vowed to myself, never will I be on the wrong side of that vote again, because things change. You focus, you spend 45 days putting this thing together, and it's pretty intense to the end, and suddenly you walk out of here and come back in a month or two from now, things could dramatically change. There could be a downturn in the economy, there could be all sorts of things that change all of that. So I really hope that we get something done by Thursday.
Okay, are there other questions?
If you had to handicap it, how much of what's the likelihood that you...
I'm in Utah. We cannot gamble.
What about Representative
The tweet
Gibson
of the
says
day.
that he thinks this is a tactic or a ploy to try to get the Speaker in the House to agree to a tax increase. We talked a little bit last night about, you sent him 111, you sent him Senator Valentine's gas tax bill is on the board over there, circled up and waiting for whatever. Are you guys just using this as a tactic to get a tax increase?
I can say I'm just not smart enough to do that kind of planning. I think the issue really is that they want the Senate to take money out of the transportation fund. We want to downsize the amount of money they want to put in technology. So when I say I put together a budget and I passed it through our leadership and had basic approval of it, that could do both of those, but it would only mean $26 million right now, $15 million ongoing, $11 million one time for the technology, which my people, who seem to know a lot more about it than I do, say that's a really good start. That would really get us going and training and doing what we need to do, and then get in place and find out what works in Davis School District, what works in Washington, what works in Grant County. All of those things are so very different that we just need more time to do it. But I don't see. I'll be very happy if there's no tax increase.
Percentage-based taxes automatically go up with inflation. They go up with the economy. But if you have rate-based taxes like the gas tax and like the statewide levy that's in 111, they don't go up with inflation, and so they lose substantial amount. The revenue stream loses a substantial amount of value over time because of inflation. And so periodically the legislature needs to address them for at least inflation, and I see it more as a revenue maintenance than as an increase, because if you're on a percentage base, it automatically does that. And so this is just a time probably that we need to adjust those up to capture some of the value that we've lost over the years due to inflation. And it'll be a discussion, and we wouldn't have to address any of these, but we have this new education initiative now that's come into the budget, and there's not enough money in the revenue growth to fund that and everything else. That's the difficulty that we're having here, and so there's a reach out to other places to capture revenue, and if we could somehow now scale the initiative back, let's do more of a pilot, let's do an incremental approach. We could fit that within the budget. We wouldn't have to deal with SB 111, or what was your bill, Senator Valentine?
190.
190. We wouldn't have to deal with any of those bills. There's enough money to do this and give a reasonable amount of money to this initiative, and we could all go home. And that's what we're trying to. That's what we're advocating, and we think we can come up with a great budget on that basis.
I'd add two things, and I think Senator Adams is here to confirm what I'm saying. The legislature several years ago did Senate Bill 229, and by taking general fund money and putting it over in the transportation fund, we avoided a tax increase for transportation needs. And so really doing that now, if you take the money out, or a significant part of it, I think you're really undermining the prevention or the hope not to have a gasoline tax increase. The other thing I'd point out is if I buy a car last year and paid $18,000 for it, and buy the same car this year and it's now gone up to $20,000, although my tax rate is the same, I pay more sales tax because the rate stays the same, but the value of the object goes up. So in the sales tax area, we have automatic increases because the value of the goods go up, even though if we look at them, they may be the same thing as they were the year before, but that increase, that's I think what the president's talking about, property tax. If you keep it and freeze it at the same rate, it'd be just like saying that the amount of tax you'd pay on your whatever car you bought would remain the same, sales tax would remain the same, even though the value may fluctuate. And when you do that for very long, you lose out on the inflation.
Senator Adams, did you have a comment?
Yeah, and Senator Hilliard is exactly right with 229. And the other effect that has is that we know our general fund revenues are very cyclical. When the economy's very good, people are buying furniture, they're buying homes, they're spending a lot of money, so our sales tax revenues are inclining and going up. But as soon as the economy turns, people quit buying homes, they quit buying furniture, and the revenues dip. And so we have a roller coaster effect with our general fund. And what's happened in the past is we've taken, and you can see how we can stop transportation projects and delay them and take that money and do what we call hold education harmless, find other areas in the budget to fill. And those are kind of rainy day monies. And I think that's one of the advantages. But even with 229, and whether we do that now is a question, but even with 229 for transportation, I served as transportation commissioner from 2006 to about 8 or 9 when I came back into the Senate. And one of the things we voted on as a commission, it was very, very painful and hard to vote on, is we stopped preventative maintenance on most of the rural roads. On those roads with very little traffic to them. They account for 50, 60, they're a large portion of the road network within the state. So that means we're just filling potholes, we're not doing slurry seals, and eventually that policy is not a good policy. And to take additional money out of transportation when we're not maintaining what we have, I think is a real challenging event. And I think it's probably not, there's an unfunded event that's coming at us in transportation as we look at maintenance and how we take care of what we have. I'm just not sure that we ought to take money out of there.
Other questions? Anybody?
Medicaid. The governor has an event this afternoon to promote his program. He's going to be down at the 4th Street Clinic talking about the need for his larger expansion. Any shift in that? You guys are behind the Shigazawa plan?
We haven't really had, we don't have any hard position on any Medicaid because there are a lot of different ideas. We've looked at all the different proposals out there, including the governor's. So we really haven't landed on a specific bill, but I think there are the votes, as we count the votes, to pass Senator Shigazawa's bill.
In the Senate or the House, both? You know?
In the Senate only.
Is it? Do you know? Are there conversations going on with the House there?
We've had some conversations about that, but not of late, obviously.
Why is that obviously?
We've been so concentrated on the other.
We're not even talking about the budget, let alone Medicaid expansion. So
I believe there's a discussion. If I'm
we're hoping that we can break that communication gap and start talking again.
I think Senator Shigazawa has a hearing along with Senator Dacus this evening on Medicaid also. So they'll be discussing it and the needs of expanding the Medicaid.
Speaking now as a budget guy, when
You're always speaking as a budget guy.
When the House or the Joint Appropriations Committee for Health and Human Services did their budget, they put rammed in $16 million more for the expansion of Medicaid. That's taking into consideration some of the surpluses we had. So if we do nothing, we know we've got to fund $16 million more. With, I think Representative Corbin, the House is carrying the... Dunnigan? No, the full...
Sampe.
The full,
No, the full is,
Yeah,
Chavez House?
yes.
yeah.
she doesn't have a bill.
Does she? Oh, I thought she
It's
did.
I have the bill.
Do you?
That's
Oh,
the
we've
agreement.
got the bill.
So our fiscal
The
analyst...
governor's bill? Is that the,
No.
or full expansion?
No, this is full expansion.
Okay.
So our fiscal analyst has done a fiscal note on that. I know they just finished one up on Senator Shiozawa's. I don't know, I'm sure they've got one on Representative Dunnigan. I've told the governor's office he needs to get a bill, either as a substitute for one of these or somebody to file a bill, so our fiscal analyst can look at that and give us some fiscal information about will we gain money, lose money, what it is. Even though I think in Senator Davis's bill, the administration costs, even though it will cost us $4 or $5 million, I don't know the exact figure. So those kinds of things we need to know, or we just won't have the money for it if we don't get the end budget.
Any other things? Any tweets?
We do have one tweet question. It's from Jeremy Roberts. He says, Senator Todd Weiler has a sensational bill on indigent defense. Do you think the state adequately funds indigent defense? And yes, asking in the middle of budget negotiations is kind of in poor taste, but everyone wants money for something.
Senator Valentine, could you address that?
Our present indigent defense is funded primarily by members of the bar, by nonprofits, and by local government. We do have requests from time to time that the state increase its amount of support for indigent defense. It just has to compete with all the other budget requests that go through the system.
Good example is over in Daggett County, where I think there was a murder or two, and they had to bring in defense counsel from outside the county, prosecutors from outside the county, and take a little county like Daggett.
That's
It's
a big hit on them.
It's more than their property.
And that's where the state helps in
Yeah,
those kind of situations.
Insurance.
Okay, thank you very much. And thanks for our tweeters and texters.
in to surprise me and show me her ring because she got engaged this morning.
You got engaged this morning?
Like a few hours ago.
You should have done it on the floor this morning.
I know.
He's on a plane to Japan right now, so it was early this morning. Before he went to Japan.
So he's been gone a long time?
2 weeks. So not bad,
But still crowded.
yeah.
You guys
Yeah.
get together, she has a request.
I feel very right now. I'll ask Rio during caucus or after caucus if he can, who's coordinating it, and get in contact with them. And then, do you want me to just shoot you an email?
Yeah, I was gonna say I can send you an email with like a more specific request.
Okay.
Be helpful.
That would be helpful.
Okay.
That would be super helpful.
Then I'll do that in the next few minutes.
And I'll go talk to him. Okay, easy enough. I thought you were gonna give me something hard to do.
Oh no.
Come on.
Just some numbers in advance.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I'm happy to help. Happy to. You're welcome.
This one was meant that the very, very first
Kind of a
version.
nice, fun little thing to have you come up to.
It was just shut the door, except for those cities that wanted to.
This is the boss.
Boss.
The other boss is over there
It
somewhere.
would then have had the effect of state.
Somewhere.
You have more bosses than coworkers, I think.
I do have more bosses than coworkers.
Yeah.
Sometimes people
A lot of chiefs around here.
So many wigs.
Discourage them from doing it.
so many ways.
Did it anyway.
Toupees.
Many